Yet to fill out your election ballot, and you're still undecided on Initiative 522. The two guests in our studio would like you to listen closely. Joining us this morning to discuss the GMO food labeling initiative, we have Luke Esser, the former chairman of the Republican Party of Washington and a supporter of 522. Also joining us is Dana Bieber, spokesperson for the No on 522 campaign. And we're going to have a little discussion with them. We're going to keep it non-harsh or judgmental, or we're going to just be patiently asking our questions.
I'm just going to sit here and eat cottage cheese. I'm not
what kind of cottage
here.
cheese?
It's like a labeled?
It's non-organic because I had to buy it here.
It's Darigold, baby.
So if I die,
and
just
you know
tell
those
my son
cows
I love him.
those cows live on Roundup and Coca-Cola.
Oh, my God.
All right.
Milk Zero, they call it. Yeah.
Okay, if you have a question about the initiative and you'd like Luke or Dana to address it, just text it to 52309 at any time during this initiative. Dana Bieber, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. And Luke Esser. Hello, Luke. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. You two know each other, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you're both are you in the professional PR? Well, you're a Republican's what are you?
I was a state legislator for 8 years and then the chairman of the state Republican Party. So I've been around politics and political issues for quite a long time.
And Dana, what's your credential or resume about?
Well, I come to this campaign just because I have a particular interest in it, but I've done some government affairs work and advocacy work, but mostly home, staying home with my 3 kids.
But you're both, professional at debating issues. You're both professionals at it.
We've done it more than once.
Like to think so.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one, partially because this area is notably liberal, and by liberal, the whole country is either 48 to 52%. I mean, you say we're very liberal, but the split of this country, when it's really up in arms about something, is almost even a lot of the time, and yet it's a Republican guy who's arguing against the biggest businesses in this, right? You're an ex-Republican legislator, right?
It's very true, yes. And
you're supposed to be in their back pocket.
Well, that's the stereotype. I actually am not anti-business, but I'm pro-consumer, and I believe that more information promotes a free market and promotes fair and open competition.
Got it. But you're supposed to be for big businesses, and this is to help the small. Anyway, I'm blowing a short circuit. And then, and you are you political? Do you vote a certain way, Democrat or Republican?
Yeah, not to the extent that maybe Luke or the others do. For me, this is just an issue that it doesn't really cut across a Republican or a Democrat line.
I think it's just a logical thing. All right.
It's a logical issue.
So you're no on 522. Now let me start with you, Dana. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of arguments on either side that I can agree with. The No on 522 people seem to repeat a big set of talking points, and that's that the law is badly written, and that it will cost us money. Those would be the major things, right?
I'd say that, and the fact that 70% of the food is exempt from the labeling requirements under 522. So
70% of what food?
70% of the food that's sold in the state of Washington gets an exemption, so it won't even be labeled under 522. So there's a lot of exemptions.
Now,
and it's costly.
Do you agree with 70% of it is exempt?
No, there are exemptions, but 70% is a wild exaggeration.
No, not really.
Yeah. Absolutely, yes. And what happens is that
this is going to be fun.
I love this time.
522 builds.
You know what? When you get those TV ads, don't you wish you could get the two TV ads in a room together to talk to each other?
Yeah,
That's what this is going to be.
Okay, so tell us why.
Initiative 522.
I mean, it's like the wild waves of exaggerations, you say.
It's about labeling. 522 doesn't ban anything, doesn't tax anything. It's about labeling. We have had existing labeling on food for more than 20 years in food in grocery stores. We don't label the same way in restaurants. You don't go into restaurants and see the type of food labels you see on cans of pop, which I'm holding up, and other products. That's the existing law. That's how.
So when you talk
522
about what's
pattern
exempt,
itself.
you're talking about food in restaurants and other things
Well,
too?
there's food in restaurants. There's going to be a lot of food in the grocery store that's going to be exempt.
Okay.
Meat, milk, and eggs will get an exemption.
But I read that that's because of federal regulations about
No.
labeling. And
No,
that
actually-
I read that even Monsanto had something to do with that when those regulations were lobbied for. Is that true?
The only thing you can't change is that nutrition panel that we see on the back of the food label. That's the only thing the federal government says you can't touch. But there is nothing that, according to federal law, that says you can't put a label on the front of the package, and that's what 522 is.
So wait a minute. The law separates the front and the back of the package?
The federal law says you just can't touch the nutritional panel, which is either on the back or on the side. Federal law doesn't say anything about putting a label on the front.
So where would the GMO label go?
On the front.
It would be on the front in under this initiative. And it is true that the existing federally required label is either on the back or the side. The truth is the people who are footing the bills for the No campaign would sue if we tried to put it anywhere near the federally required.
That is so not true.
We love you people.
Are you guys sure you don't want the boxing gloves I offered earlier? Are you sure?
They're not spending $20 million in the state of Washington because they want more information about genetically
All right,
engineered
so
food.
let me get to
information.
Let me get to the. All right, I'm going to tell you right now. I will probably vote for the labeling because I always like knowing more about, and I don't believe that it'll cost a ton of money. But there's things I do believe about your argument. One of them is no one's ever proven that this wonderful genetically modified food that feeds so many people with perfect-looking vegetables has ever hurt anybody. Is that true scientifically?
Oh, absolutely. The scientific evidence is overwhelming, no doubt about it. So, but you say that for you.
Well, I don't know that the evidence is overwhelming.
Oh,
the
600
lack of
studies.
evidence is overwhelming.
Well, I'd say, when organizations like the National Academy of Sciences and the American Medical Association and the World Health Organization, organizations like that study it, and they all deem the same thing, that not only are the foods safe, but they're actually identical to non-GE foods.
All right, let me give you a chance to respond to that, because that is, I think, and by the way, interestingly to me, I don't know why you guys don't make that argument in your TV spots, because the TV spots just appeal to fear of it'll cost you more money and it's badly written. But what about pushing that GMO food is the greatest thing since sliced GMO bread? Well, I mean, do you have any studies that say it hurt anybody?
There haven't been long-term studies, first of all, and it's important to remember with food labeling, we don't food label on the premise that we only label after we're convinced that something is dangerous.
Yeah. We did that with cigarettes.
We label for information. For example, this can of pop that I'm drinking lists the ingredients. The first two ingredients are carbonated water and caramel color. Those aren't dangerous, but I still want to know what's going in my body. We label for if juice is made from concentrate, you have to label it. If fish is frozen, you have to label it.
Right.
Because
none of this stuff when I was a kid, by the way.
Exactly.
I just ate a ton of cyclamates and tons of cane sugar. And look at me.
Vegetarians
you
want to know.
I'm fine. I'm
You're
wonderful.
doing great.
Yeah.
Vegetarians want to know if there's animal fat. People want to know country of origin if they want to be patriotic and support America. So it's not the case that we only label because we're concerned about dangers. We label because we want more information.
We label to inform the public.
And then trust people to make the right decisions for
All
themselves.
Right. Now let me ask you a tougher question,
All right.
Dana. Europe won't take our vegetables.
That's not true.
Is that not true?
That is not true.
They won't take our GMO stuff, is what I read. No?
Well, a lot of countries do have some requirements as to which products they will and they won't take, and then our farmers export to those countries as required. So
So some European countries won't take our GMOs. Is that true?
It depends. They have different tolerances, but yes. But then our farmers grow to what those countries that require. So this doesn't have anything to do with the export market, though. It doesn't help it, doesn't hurt it, doesn't change it. But it is important to note that every major farming organization does oppose it. Tens of thousands of farmers urging a no vote versus 150 farmers on the yes side. So the farmers are further. Well, isn't
it true that it's the large farmers with the most dollars who most do this kind of food, and it's the up and coming mom and pop organic, little farms they can't compete and can't spend the money and can't.
It's the small farmers all over the state. I mean, it's the local farm bureau members. Every single one of them urges a no vote. I mean,
they urge a no vote. Okay, answer that.
Except 3 of the top 5 contributors are Monsanto, Dow, and DuPont. So.
They're little tiny little Monsanto family.
Mom and pop. Yeah, Bob and Betty DuPont and George and Martha Dow.